news, Fairfax County Supervisor James Walkinshaw will be the newest member of Congress after winning yesterday's special election to replace his former boss, the late Representative Gerry Connolly. Walkinshaw defeated Republican Stuart Whitson, an Army veteran and FBI agent. The Associated Press called the race just 36 minutes after the poll closed. So, Walkinshaw has won nearly 75% of the vote. Needless to say, Virginia 11 is a very blue district. Whitson won 25%. The district contains a majority of Fairfax County and the city of Fairfax.
The Hill's national political reporter Julia Manchester was on the ground yesterday covering this election. She joins us now with details on what it portends for the rest of the Commonwealth. Julia, good morning to you. Walkinshaw basically walked away with this election. Is this sort of a result that was to be expected, or is there something more to the margin of victory here?
Yeah, Corey and Hillary, this was certainly expected that Walkinshaw would win. Remember, this is a very deep blue district just outside of Washington, D.C., so leans left. We know that Kamala Harris, for example, won this district by over 34 points last November. But when you read into Walkinshaw's margin of error, we see that he's surpassed, he's surpassed that margin of victory that Kamala Harris got, well over 34%. So I think that tells us a few things going into November's gubernatorial elections in Virginia, but also potentially the midterms next year. We know, like I said, this is a district just outside of Washington, D.C. So that means that it's really been probably impacted by the DOGE cuts or Department of Government Efficiency cuts to the federal workforce. We have a large population of federal workers that live in this area. We know that Democrats have really zeroed in on that issue as a campaign issue. Walkinshaw, as well as Democratic gubernatorial candidate Abigail Spanberger, has zeroed in on that as an issue. So I think that shows us potentially how potent of the issue this is going into Virginia's elections in November. Now, going into the midterms next year, Democrats are arguing that this means they're essentially fired up. And remember, we've talked so much this year about how Democrats have struggled really to energize themselves and organize themselves ahead of, following President Trump's 2024 victory. However, the flip side of that is that we've seen Democrats score a number of special election victories. In January, there were 2 state legislature victories in Northern Virginia. This year alone, there's been 2 flips in the Iowa state legislature as well. We're looking out for a race in Georgia later this month. And then, of course, we have this congressional seat, even though it certainly leaned more blue. So Democrats saying this is proof that their base is energized, but Republicans cautioning that, look, this was going to be a blue district. Turnout is typically lower in special elections, so you can't glean too much from this special election going into November of 2026's midterm elections.
And to your point, some of these Democrats were highly motivated because they were federal workers. Here's what Walkinshaw had to say. The voters of Fairfax have spoken clearly. They want a representative who will fight for our community and deliver results, from taking on DOGE to defending our democracy. I will fight every single day to deliver results for the people of the 11th district. And now, of course, Julia, he's calling on House Speaker Mike Johnson to immediately hold a swearing in because his vote matters. It's a slim margin between the Republicans and Democrats.
That's an excellent point. And this is why this race had so much national significance. We know that there are currently 4 vacancies in Congress, 3 from Democratic lawmakers, including the late Congressman Gerry Connolly, who held this Virginia 11 seat, and also 1 Republican seat, former Congressman Mark Green from Tennessee, who resigned earlier this year. So, when you have a Democrat filling that margin, it goes down, the Republican majority goes down from 219 to 212 to 219 to 213. And remember, with this government spending bill on the horizon, Mike Johnson already has to deal with, getting his own party united on this issue and grappling with his own Republican conference. If there is one more Democrat, slimming that majority, that makes Mike Johnson's job that much harder.
Julia, where does Walkinshaw fall on the sort of political spectrum on the Democratic side of things? He's called himself a pragmatic progressive, but we know that is the ongoing debate in the Democratic Party. Where should we go? Should we go further left, or should we stay to that center to bring more folks into the party?
I wouldn't call Walkinshaw a moderate, but I wouldn't say he's, ultra progressive. I wouldn't say Walkinshaw is going to walk into Congress and become a part of the squad, if you will. I would say he probably fits with the majority of Democrats in the House as sort of between that moderate and, progressive left flank of the party. And that makes sense coming from this district. We know that this district is very left leaning, but it's not so left leaning that they would consider that it would be, an ultra progressive district, if you will.
Julia, because this is your wheelhouse, what haven't we asked you that you think people should know about this?
Well, this isn't maybe directly impacting this race in particular, but I think this is impacting Virginia as a whole, and maybe a lot of viewers watching this. We know that, and it will impact the November elections. There have been 3 rural hospitals or healthcare centers that have closed in Virginia very recently. It was announced yesterday that it was a total of 3, and the hospital systems are saying that this is a result of being squeezed budget-wise by the spending bill, President Trump's so-called big beautiful bill. They are blaming it on that. And now you have Democrats in Virginia ahead of November really grasping at this and saying, using it to attack Republicans. Abigail Spanberger is attacking Winsome Sears with this. But also, you have Republicans or Democrats in Virginia using this to attack Republicans going into 2026. One race I have an eye on is Virginia's 1st congressional district. It's currently represented by Congressman Rob Whitman. We know that his opponent, Shannon Taylor, who ran earlier this year in the Virginia Democratic Attorney General primary, or one of his challengers, has hit Whitman on this. So that's something to watch, a narrative to watch going into this year and next year.
We finish with one election and we move on to the next one. It's the American way. Julia Manchester joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Of course, you can always find Julia's reporting on Virginia's elections and much more on thehill.com.